Yeah, It's been there. They're like, that's how stuff where you're like, I'm on to go to the bridge. Like, you can't just be like, sure, let's go in and relatively, I remember back in the day,
Test. 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 Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? All right. Justin. Justin, can you hear me okay? Okay. All right, good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you. I want to just start off our morning with getting the housekeeping out of the way. The first thing I wanted to share is that today is going to be videotaped. And there's Justin in the back, who is basically the videographer along with Hero. And I wanted to share that if for some reason you do not want to be videotaped or you feel uncomfortable with that, please see Justin and he will make sure that you're edited out or not included in the video. Okay? In terms of the logistics of the building, it's pretty straightforward. Fortunately, the building is a square, which really helps because I get confused very easily. And so the restrooms are on this side of the building, right around the corner, basically right there. The breakout sessions are basically on four corners. There's two on this side, and then one on that corner, and one on that back corner. In terms of the room, there's no standing allowed in the room for fire regulations, and obviously the exit's right there, and there are exits on each side of the building. All right, so in terms of, what else? I have all these details. I should have written them down. But, oh yeah, on your name tags, you should have a U, M, or L, upper, mid, or lower. Those will delineate your afternoon breakout sessions in terms of the region that you should go to. If you do not have anything on there, it means that you probably have multiple people from your agency or organization, and we want you to spread them out equally among the groups. Does that make sense? Okay. Nancy, am I forgetting anything?
The only other thing I'd say, and I don't know if you said it before I came in the room, Rob, is a lot of times people ask, are the presentations going to be available? We are certainly going to ask the permission of all presenters and what we said to you afterwards. So, you know, enjoy it. Don't sit there and madly try to take snapshots of it. That's it.
Right. All the presentations will be shared. Okay. Welcome to an Eastern Shore Food Symposium, Tackling Hunger Together. Welcome. My name is Rob Levitt. I will be facilitating the late afternoon session to really try to tie the learning together. And so last night I was going through the guest list, the registration list, and the breakout sessions. And I have to say, I mean, I was really blown away by the diversity and the just the depth of all the different organizations, all the people that are represented. And it's really staggering when you think about all of the amazing work that you all are doing on the Eastern Shore and throughout Maryland to really address food insecurity and to create a more resilient community. So I just wanted to start off always expressing gratitude for your presence here and all of the good work that you do. Thank you very much. So the day is going to be basically divided up into kind of two overall sessions. The morning session, starting with your keynote speaker, LaMonika, it's really going to be about learning, pulling in new information, and probably most importantly, sharing as much information. You all have a lot of information, so we're going to really try to have those conversations and really deepen those experiences and relationships. In your breakout rooms, there are going to be facilitators, and there are going to be people taking notes. I have a couple phrases I like to use. ABC, always be capturing. If you think it, you should ink it. There's so many good ideas that can come. Let's not leave anything on the table. Let's get everything we can get. Because in the afternoon, we're going to take that learning, which I hope really goes deep, and we're going to take it and we're going to try to turn it into some actionables and some plans in our afternoon regional sessions. So that's kind of how the day is going to go. One thing that I would like to point out is we have a passport. If you look in your packet on page 2, there's, I call it a passport, and basically it has some guiding questions for the day. I better put my glasses on for this. It has some guiding questions for the day, such as, what topics or ideas require further explanation or deeper understanding following today's sessions? What new possibilities have you become aware of that you hadn't previously thought about? So if you can grab one or two of these questions and kind of carry those questions with you throughout the day and try to like extract some learning. Who's ever been to a conference where at the end of the day you say, that was a great conference, but I'm not really sure what I got from that? Let's try to break that cycle and pattern and really extract as much learning as we can from this conference. So there's your guiding questions. They're great for your breakout sessions, great for you to think about individually. Now, if you flip the page, you're going to see this little passport, okay? And so one thing I like to do is meet as many cool people as possible. And so there's a lot of great people here today. I already met Rena, I met Anna, and I met Angel. Where are they? Right over in Caroline County, SNAP educator. She's the money person out there, over there in Caroline County. And so I want to meet as many cool people as I can because I'm going to learn from them about things I don't know. So try to meet 3 to 5 people today, at least, new people. What are some key ideas that you've gotten from today's session? Try to have an aha moment. Write that down. And then at the end of the day, try to outline 1, 2, or 3 specific things that you can do and carry forward from this day so that we're extending the learning, extending the inspiration, extending the action long after this conference. Okay. Whew, that's a lot. Any questions for me before we start the day? Anything I didn't address or cover? All right. I set the deepest intention for you and for this conference today to truly make a difference, to really start extending the action for the people that live here on the Eastern Shore that need access to food, that need new ways of thinking about distributing food, and new ways of collaborating and working together. I set that deepest intention for us today. And at this time, I would like to introduce Pam Allen, Executive Director of Meals Till Monday, who will give you a few notes and introduce our wonderful keynote speaker, LaMonika Jones. Thank you.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? All right, great. So I just want to take a few minutes before introducing Ms. LaMonika Jones to go over very briefly as to how we got here. So a couple of years ago, I guess it's been 2 years now, Meals to Monday was tasked by No Kid Hungry, as well as supported by No Kid Hungry, to come up with a mid-shore coalition. So thank you so much to No Kid Hungry. So in doing so, we reached out to many organizations, faith-based groups, individuals, pantries, anyone that was interested in food insecurity and wanting to do more for our community. As we brought that group together, we learned that not only, of course, was it important to those on the mid-shore, but the upper shore and the lower shore as well. So we did reach out to some individuals on the upper shore who kind of joined our group. We created this core group. We were battling what the name was going to be. I think we finally came up with Eastern Shore Food Coalition. But as we were sitting around and we were talking and trying to figure out how to make this work, we realized that we had some key planners in the room. So they picked up the mantle, rolled with it, and planned this wonderful event for us today. So there's a few people that I'll probably shout out later, but this was definitely a group effort, and I'm so excited and thankful that you all felt that this was important. It was important to your community and for you all to be here today. So thank you again. And we don't want this to be the end. As far as I'm concerned, everyone in here now is part of the Eastern Shore Food Coalition. So we have your information. Believe me, we'll reach out to you. So again, thank you so much for being here. Now, moving on to Miss LaMonika Jones. Get ready, as they say. So LaMonika is currently the Director of State Initiatives at the Food Research and Action Center, where she oversees DC Hunger Solutions, Maryland Hunger Solutions, and the New Jersey Food Security Initiative. LaMonika has many years of experience in child nutrition and fighting against hunger in several geographical areas. She currently serves as an advisory board member for the National Farm to School Network, co-chair of FRAC's Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, and currently sits on and has been appointed to the Maryland Food System Resiliency Council. LaMonika is definitely passionate about her role, and I believe that Maryland, D.C., and New Jersey will benefit from her creativity and her out-of-the-box thinking to support our organizations and the communities that we serve. So please welcome LaMonika and be ready to be educated, engaged, and inspired. So welcome her.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, sometimes I can be loud, sometimes not. I am an introverted extrovert, so you are getting all of my personality today. This afternoon, I may be in a corner somewhere trying to re-energize. I'm also a walker and a talker, but I can't see past this wall, so that's why I'm standing over here, and I don't like the stage. So I prefer to be over here. But good morning. I'm really glad to see you all this morning. I know it's bright, it's early, so I hope we have caffeinated well. If you're a tea person, okay, I'm a coffee person. But I hope we're all caffeinated and excited about this morning. I'm really excited to be here. I don't get to do these types of presentations too often. This is my very first keynote. I've done a ton of trainings before with state agencies, with partners, but this is the very first time that I've actually had an opportunity to keynote and share with you all some of my experiences, a lot of the learning that I've had over my 4 decades of life. And so I'm really excited to share with you all. I just first want to say thank you to the Eastern Shore Food Coalition. Thank you to Pam. Thank you to Leslie, Nancy, Mike. Everybody has been very welcoming and very open with my questions. And so I'm really, really excited to be here with you all this morning. So I'll jump right into it. So I always like to start off with who's in the room. So I know it's early, but I love to be interactive. I used to be a high school and middle school teacher. And so I don't like to talk at people all day long. I like you to talk with me. That was also the one thing I always got in trouble for in school, was talking. So I like to be engaging, and I want you all to engage with me. I want to know who's in the room. So if we can scan that QR code, or if you go to slido.com and put in that code at the bottom, you should see a word cloud, a question that should pop up, and just let me know who's in the room. Dietitian, ooh, international family liaison. I need some more details on what that is. Judy Center. So I am new to Maryland for the past 3 years, and I just learned what Judy Centers were a couple years ago when I first got here. Long range planners, community schools. All right, I love it. Executive director, health department, health equity officer. All right, keep them coming. Just FYI, the slide I had before this was not this detailed with titles and people in the room. So I love the fact that there is so much diversity in titles and in roles here in the room today. Okay, so who am I? Pam did a great introduction to who I am. Yes, my name is LaMonika, and I am the State Initiatives Director for FRAC, which means I oversee DC, Maryland, and New Jersey. At this point, I am collecting states like infinity stones. And so I have a coworker that calls me the Queen of States. And so if there's any question about the Mid-Atlantic, I've got it. I'm originally from Michigan, and I left Michigan and moved to Georgia. So I lived in the Southeast for 14 years. I was sharing with Pam last night, I'm still learning about the Mid-Atlantic. I feel like I'm a pro at everything that deals with the Southeast, but I am glad to be here in the Mid-Atlantic. I love snow, so I'm glad for the snow. I'm probably an anomaly with ones that love snow. I love the 4 seasons. I'm glad to be away from the crazy Southeast Georgia weather that's happening right now. But I worked for the Department of Early Care and Learning for 7 years while I was in Georgia. And I oversaw all the purchasing and procurement for childcare programs across the entire state. And so we worked with CACFP, which of course the Child and Adult Care Food Program, and the Summer Food Service Program. So I oversaw all the purchasing and procurement for our sponsors, our sites, our child care centers, and our daycare homes for Georgia. I also worked with our farmers, our growers, our vendors, to introduce them to doing more business with our child nutrition programs. Before that, I worked for a woman-owned minority supplier. And so we worked with jails, prisons, hospitals, school districts, wide range of folks doing food service and non-food service. Kind of to backtrack a little bit, how I got into food. My parents were franchise owner operators. So I learned the business of food starting at 16. Did not want to, but my dad told me, this is how I'm paying for you to go to college, so you will be in this restaurant. So I learned the background in the business of food. I learned about payroll. I learned about taxes. I learned about just invoicing your food cost. I learned about how to do a markup on food. I learned all of the business of food starting at 16. And then by the time I graduated from college, I wanted to be a federal prosecutor, but did not want to sit in court all day long or go to law school. I took my LSAT and said, no thanks, let's do something else. And so when I made a shift and decided not to be an attorney, using that food-based business experience that I had to get a job. And so I started working for a engineering firm. So who all remembers the very first Transformers movie with Shia LaBeouf? I worked for the company that designed all those cars. So I worked with the tooling buyers that bought the tools to build the cars. So I got to see Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, before they actually rolled out to the movies. So that was like my big intro into procurement and understanding contracting. And then that moved into Georgia, where I started teaching high school, working for a woman-owned business. And then I decided to make this shift. After I had started working for a state agency, I was like, we have to do more. There needs to be more on the advocacy side. And this was kind of right as we were easing out of the pandemic, or just kind of ending it right in the middle of it. I wanted to do more, and I needed to step away from a state agency because there was only so much I could do as a state agency. I had to be very unbiased, and I had some very strong feelings with how I wanted to approach my work. And so that's what brought me to DC. So I could advocate more for our child nutrition programs. Where I am now was never a part of the equation. I was perfectly fine advocating for child nutrition programs and working with our partners in DC. But other things happened. Other plans happened, and I'm really excited to be here now overseeing Maryland Hunger Solutions and New Jersey Food Security Initiative and advocating for folks in the entire Mid-Atlantic, as well as working with partners such as you all. So who is Maryland Hunger Solutions? We are one of the 3 state initiatives of the Food Research and Action Center. We have been around since 2007. And unlike some of our other partners, we do not directly touch food. So we don't distribute any food. We do all the other things that are connected with food. So we're oftentimes the thought leaders when it comes to food. We also do quite a bit of direct service. So we work statewide with SNAP, enrolling our residents, determining eligibility, as well as connecting with our state agency with DHS on improving benefit adequacy and access. So a lot of our work is on maximizing participation in our federal nutrition programs. We also work, of course, with child nutrition programs. I know some of you all are very familiar with our staff on our team. And in addition to maximizing participation in our federal nutrition programs, we also work extensively in policy. And so that's that other seat that we sit in. So while we are working on direct service, while we are trying to assist our clients, working with our school nutrition directors, our food and nutrition staff, our state agency staff, we're also working with our community leaders, our residents, our legislators to determine what are some permanent policy solutions that we can implement. What are some ways that we can ensure that the initiatives and the changes that we want to see become permanent. So we know that we're in the middle of Georgia. That happens very, very often, and I can't shake Georgia. We are in the middle of Maryland's General Assembly. So there's quite a few pieces of legislation that we are tracking At Maryland Hunger Solutions, one of them is a community eligibility provision expansion. We're also tracking Hunger-Free Campus, as well as some other pieces of legislation. And so we spend quite a bit of time in Annapolis during session, talking to our legislators, advocating for the policies that are going to impact our program providers as well as our families on the ground. Outside of that, we do a lot of training and technical assistance, making sure that folks understand SNAP, understand school meals, they understand CEP, the other food systems, things that occur within our state, and really work with our partners to make sure that we are really embodying and creating a just food system across the entire state of Maryland. So these are just some of our priorities, many of which I just went over. So when I had an opportunity, when Pam and Leslie brought this keynote to my attention and asked me to be the speaker, it took a while for me to think, what did I want to talk about? What was central to who I am and my work and how I got here? And one of those things is community collaboration. What I do on a day-to-day basis, I often tell my staff, we're not selling widgets. So what I do is to serve someone else. That was one of the reasons why I also could not be a federal prosecutor. I realized as I was graduating college, whatever I do in life, it has to be for the betterment of someone else. I can't be self-serving and self-seeking with what I do. So whether it doesn't matter what it is. My best friend at the time, she actually was studying higher ed and decided she wanted to be an immigration attorney. So we actually kind of flipped careers. But she had the same thought. We were both at this point where we're graduating college. We have to figure out what's coming next in life. And we both realized we have to have a job, but we can't do a job that is self-serving. And that's only going to benefit me. And I realized at a really, really young age, that was something probably intentional, maybe unintentional, I don't know, that my parents instilled in me. I was a Girl Scout. So I know there's Girl Scout cookies that I dodge every Girl Scout that I see. I'm not going to have a freezer full of those cookies, but I also know what it's like to be a Girl Scout. And that was one of the earliest things that my mom made sure that I was involved in. It was the community service aspect. So collecting patches, doing what I can, community service, it was always about someone else. It was never just about me. And that carried on through my life and in my career. My dad was also a PTO president, and he was Neighborhood Watch. And so my dad had that same kind of mindset. And I watched my dad, as I was small, went to work every day, but always made sure he was connected to his community. He made sure that he was connected to our neighborhood. And that's something that just resonated me. And he may not have realized I was watching, but it was something that I was watching and I've always made note of is my dad is always connected to the community, and my mom as well. So there's power in community. There's power in us being able to build with our community partners. And that's what we carry at Maryland Hunger Solutions and all of our states. That's what we carry into our work every single day, is this power of community. Yes, we want to make sure that we are focusing on eligibility within our federal nutrition programs. Yes, we want to better our food system, but it's about community. It's the community that we are trying to improve. It's our initiatives that are going to support our community, and it's that shifting and building power back to the residents in the community that we want to make sure that we're focusing on. If you see me looking down, there's notes on my phone. Let's see. Okay, so I had to look up the definition of community. And when I looked it up, the definition came up: people living in the same area or having a particular characteristic in common, a feeling of fellowship with others because of common attitudes, interests, and goals. We are all here today because we are in community with one another. We are one big food system community. I think if you look on USDA, there is a community food systems. I believe that's what it's called. And so recognizing that we are all here because we have some sort of seat within our food system, whether we are farmers, whether we are growers, food nutrition staff, business owners. I know for sure we all eat. So we definitely have that in common. So community we're here because we all have this shared space. We all have this shared desire to improve our community, to improve access to food, to address hunger, and to address the root causes of hunger as well. It also proven that we're here from the Eastern Shore, the state of Maryland, and the Mid-Atlantic. So our offices are headquartered in DC, but we have primarily centered in Baltimore City, but we're statewide. And so this is all a part of building this food system across the entire state. So we all have something to learn from one another. We learn quite a bit from Eastern Shore. We also learn from Baltimore City. We also learn from DC. What does it look like, the food access and insecurity in DC? What does that look like? What lessons can I learn from New Jersey? What lessons can I learn from California? What lessons can I learn from other states? And we bring that back here. What are they learning from us? Quite a few folks learn quite a bit from Maryland, the work that's going on in Maryland. And we all sit here together so that we can build that community, so that we can address the shared interests and goals that we have of improving food access across our state. So these are two quotes that I thought were really, really important when it came to just kind of grasping community collaboration. The first one is, the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. And so one of the things that I started thinking about was, in order to really, really understand the heart of your community and the heart of the issues that you're trying to address, we have to act with compassion. When we're thinking of residents that are eligible for SNAP, they're signing up for SNAP. If we're thinking about children as they are going through the school lunch line and the stigma that's attached to that, there's a lot of trauma that's associated with that. For some individuals, just calling a DSS center is a traumatic experience, because I don't want to have to admit that I can't afford food. I always say the rent eats first. A lot of people don't want to, it's traumatizing to have to admit I can't afford something that is a basic human right. I should be able to wake up and to choose what I want to eat, when I want to eat, and how I access that food. For some people, it's not that easy. For a child that is going through a school lunch line, I know this is not the case in Maryland, but for some of our children, knowing that they're eligible and receiving a free meal, that's traumatizing. When I used to teach in Atlanta, all of my students lived well below the poverty line. But the high school that they went to in Atlanta was a mixed bag of income. So it sat right on this line within Atlanta where it was, and how many people are familiar with the layout of Atlanta? I don't know if you are. Okay. So my students went to school in North Atlanta, kind of Buckhead-ish area. So a lot of their friends were extremely wealthy. Black cards, credit cards to pay for lunch, Mercedes. My friends didn't. My students didn't. My students were all free and reduced price meal students. And they knew that. But they refused to go through the lunch line because they didn't want their friends to know, who were paying with cash and credit cards for lunch. They didn't want their friends to know that they didn't have cash. They didn't have money to pay for lunch. It was either I eat and I go through the lunch line and get whatever our food and nutrition staff have prepared, or I don't eat. And so they didn't want to do that, and that was traumatizing for them. And so in conversations with some of their teachers who didn't know who I was, because I taught a different program that wasn't an everyday in the classroom type program, they would often make comments, and I'm thinking, you have no idea what these students are going through. These students are not eating lunch during the day, so when I see them in the afternoon, they are devouring food that has been prepared for them by a church that comes in and donates, and then they don't eat again until that program, sometimes the following day, because their parents are working at night. They may or may not eat breakfast in the morning. If they are eating breakfast, it's chips, it's candy. But you're making an assumption about my students, their attitudes, their behaviors, because they're hungry. And these are children. It's simply because they're hungry. It's not because of anything else. It has nothing to do with you, but it's because they're hungry. And I had to remind this teacher, we have to operate with a level of compassion when we know that we are connecting with our community and we're dealing with folks that are experiencing hunger and living with low income, because there's trauma attached to that. This other quote that I thought was really, really important was from Helen Keller, and this is alone we can do so much, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. I'm a firm believer there's power in numbers and there's power in our community. When I was talking to Pam and Leslie last night at dinner, we were just kind of thinking through all of these different strategies and just ways that we can just improve food system and program and access. And I had to apologize to Pam because I probably gave her some assignments as Leslie was looking. But there's so much that we can do together. There's so many different spaces and places that we hold leadership and that we hold knowledge and that we hold power. Just imagine what we could do if we put all that together and formulated this community strategic plan where we developed co-ops, where we business owners invested in the community to open up healthy corner stores so that we could address the transportation issues in Eastern Shore. And so putting all these pieces together, I'm a firm believer we cannot silo ourselves in food. The response is a lot of times, let's not just put a grocery store in an area because you can put a grocery store there. How are people going to get there? Can they afford it? What's the freshness of the food? And so there's all these different layers that are attached to it. But imagine if we all came together and put our humongous big brains together to create this strategy that addressed not just food insecurity itself, not just hunger, but all those social determinants of health, those intersectionalities of food, transportation, economic stability, childcare access, affordable housing, putting all that together to create a solution where we actually have viable communities where people that are receiving some of our services are also the ones that are pouring back into our services so that we just have this well-rounded, robust system. I'm a huge supporter of small businesses. If anyone works for any of these businesses in this room, I'm sorry. Walmart does not fund this area. Money from Walmart, from Target, from larger grocery stores doesn't pour back into our community. But our smaller businesses, our farmers, our growers, those are the ones that are pouring back into the community. They pay taxes in this community. They live in this community. They have a vested interest in this community. So everyone putting their brains together to create solutions that address hunger, poverty, food insecurity is how we make a robust food system. So what does that look like? It's not just all of us here. It is all of us here, but it's also our leaders. It's our legislators, it's our state leaders, our county leaders. I believe everybody is a leader. You hold a level of leadership in whatever role you play. So if you are a food and nutrition staff, you hold leadership and authority in terms of how you feed your students. If you are a grocery store owner, you hold authority over what is the price that you're charging. If you understand the median income of the folks that live in your community, then you know how much they can typically afford. If this is a low income community, apples should not cost $40 an apple. There should be some math going on there to make sure that we are servicing our communities better. Leaders also are effective. They listen, they guide, and they serve the community's best interests, really taking a seat, standing up and standing back to say, let's hear from the community. Let's hear from what you all want. I may be a leader and I may have quote unquote power, but I can't do my job effectively if I don't hear from you all. If I don't have your insight, if I don't have your intel, I can't do my job without you. And also disagreements are inevitable. This is one thing that I had to learn, is that I'm okay with people disagreeing with me. I'm not the end all be all. I don't know everything. I am a recovering know-it-all, but I don't know it all. There are people that have decades and decades of more experience than I do, that sit in places of leadership and of knowledge that I never will. I know an element of farming. I don't know the ins and outs. I admire farmers. I admire growers, just the work it takes. I understand the concept of seed time and harvest, but the day-to-day that involves, I don't know. And so I rely on others, and as a leader, rely on those who have been doing the work much longer, who do the work day in and day out. I rely on that. We rely on our community partners who do this work in other areas than we do, those that are distributing food. We don't distribute food. We advocate, we do direct service, but we're not the ones that are distributing food. That's an animal all on its own. To coordinate transportation, to coordinate delivery, to coordinate drop-offs and pickups, and where we're going to get the food from and how much. That's a lot of work. And so we rely on our community partners that have that infrastructure, that have that capacity, and have that knowledge to do that. We rely on them as leaders in that space. Trust is also important in any community, and this comes from keeping our communities reliable and demonstrating care for one another. And so again, making sure that we're listening to one another is a strong way that we're able to have a impactful community and to continue to advocate for the things that are important to us. So kind of along that same line and where I was going to is lived experience. In our work, and it can be challenging because a lot of folks don't want to admit that they are experiencing food insecurity. They don't want to share their experience, number one. A lot of times when folks share their experience, it's tokenized. You want me to share my story without compensating me for it. You want to share my story because it's going to platform me in some way. And so we do our best to make sure that we don't do that. That we always compensate folks for sharing their lived experience because number one, it is traumatizing for some folks, not everybody, but for some. But we have to center the voice of our residents. We have to learn how to shift and build power back to our community, back to the residents that we are advocating for. This means as we're thinking through permanent solutions, and I'll get into this a little bit later in the slides, but when we're thinking about how we're going to advocate and when we're thinking about policies and bills and permanent solutions, I can't just do that with my brain. I have to do that by listening to others. I have to do that by hearing what's actually happening on the ground. Technically, we are a grassroots agency. Maryland Hunger Solutions is a grassroots agency, but it's really, really important that we get lower to the ground and those that are really, really experiencing the impacts of food insecurity. What happens when you go to a store and you're trying to utilize your WIC benefits, you swipe your EBT card. What happens? What does that experience look like? If you're swiping your eWIC card and you find out I can't utilize all of my benefits on these particular items because they have not been added to my card, and then I have to use my SNAP to cover it, but I don't have enough left on my EBT card and I have to use cash, but wait a minute, I don't have any cash. What does that experience like? For some, it's embarrassing because what you just showed me and what I just showed to the world is number one, you don't think it's important enough for me to have enough money to afford the food that I need for my family. And two, the person behind me in line knows that I'm experiencing low income and I can't afford to feed my family just based off the income that I earn. It's very challenging for folks, but we utilize that and we develop these trusted spaces for our residents because we can't make an impact in our community. We can't share those stories without their lived experience. I don't know what it's like to experience food insecurity. I don't know what it's like to utilize SNAP or EBT. I don't know what that's like, but I rely on our residents and our clients to share that because it's impactful. And we always make sure that we compensate them for that. So again, when we're talking about lived experience, it's how we center the voices of our residents. It's not that I just want to utilize your lived experience for a piece of policy or legislation. I actually want to bring you to the table. I want you to pull up a chair and I want you to have a seat at the table. And if you can't have the seat of the table, I'll put you on a Zoom screen and we'll do it that way. But I actually want you to be a part of the decision-making process. I just connected with a long-time supporter in DC. We're all aware of everything that's going on at the federal and in DC right now. But she is someone that is very, very vocal about making sure that people understand what it's like to be a SNAP recipient with teenage boys. And I have a brother. And my brother used to eat every hour on the hour. I have a niece who's 12. She does not sit still, and she also eats every hour. And I'm like, how are you still hungry and you just had oatmeal and pancakes? And she's like, I'm starving. And I'm like, you cannot be hungry. That's impossible. But she's been an advocate for making sure that legislators know at all levels, they understand what it's like to utilize SNAP, to utilize WIC, and I will protect her at all costs. So when folks say, hey, LaMonika, we need someone to speak up for so-and-so, I'm like, how are you compensating her? Are you gonna make sure that she has transportation? How are we gonna make sure that we're connecting with her in a way that is dignified and respectful, that she does not feel like we are just taking advantage of her for her story and then we're just gonna drop her? So I make sure that we protect the folks that we recommend to our legislators, making sure that I'm protecting them at all costs, because I don't want to feel like we are just tokenizing their lived experience, because for them, it's actually real life. So again, this community collaboration, it requires authentic engagement, and engaging with folks that have this lived experience. And ensuring that their contributions are fully integrated into planning. And so if you have an opportunity to, within your respective roles and organizations, inviting someone, if you have a project from start to finish, what does this look like for you as maybe a user of this work? Or what does this look like, and what are some thoughts and ideas that I can incorporate and bring you to the table? So being willing and open to inviting our residents, our clients to the table, giving them a seat at the table. They may not be at the decision-making table, but at least we have their insights and their thoughts about programs, initiatives that we are thinking of adopting and implementing. So, education. And I think I have let's see, we can play this quick video.
Hey, remember your favorite teachers? The ones who taught you the stuff that was really hard to learn? The ones whose class you never wanted to miss? The ones who got you even when you didn't get yourself? Now you remember the one who got under your skin? Who rode you too hard, made you think, if I were in that power seat, I could do it better? Well, here's your chance. Teach. Do it better.
So I'm old school. I remember when that used to come up every Saturday morning when I used to watch my cartoons. And so I feel like all of us are teachers. All of us have a level of knowledge where we can share with others. We all have seeds of knowledge that we can plant with one another, as well as with those in our communities. And so when we're talking about folks with lived experience and trying to carry that over into what we're doing, it's important for us to look at them as teachers just as well as we are, by having these community roundtables, feedback sessions, surveys, focus groups, an opportunity for them to share with us so that we can learn, but also an opportunity for us to share with them on our work with what we're doing, so that we're teaching one another, each one teach one kind of model, train the trainer kind of model. Because once we know more, we can do more. If I know what this work looks like on the ground, if I know what this impact looks like on the ground, then that means that I can do more. Then that means that I can share more. We can learn more. I can strategize in a different way. I can think outside of the box. I can connect with that neighbor, that partner, that business, to bring this idea to life, to collaborate in a way that I actually thought was unimaginable. And it was just because I didn't really know. I hadn't learned what it looks like on the ground. There's also power in numbers. I'm a firm believer that while qualitative is really important, our numbers share a story. So when we're putting together these projects, when we're looking at how to improve our community, what do the actual numbers tell us? Our numbers tell a really, really good story. They tell a great story. How many people are in our community? What's the race and ethnic background of the folks in our community? What's the percentage of individuals that are experiencing food insecurity? How many children do we have that attend this school? How many children are eating school lunch? How many grocery stores do we have in the area? All these things. How many farms do we have in the area? All of this are numbers, and they tell a great story. And when we put that story together, put those numbers together, it paints a picture that we can otherwise paint without knowing. And when we're putting those numbers together and we're creating the story and we're learning, it invites solutions. So as I have these stories of folks on the ground that are experiencing food insecurity and hunger, now I also have numbers. I can see what is their median income. And so I can put this together and I can think through a viable solution. What type of money do I have to work with in order to implement this solution? I put that together and I'm like, wait a minute. Now the ideas are going off like wildfire. Now they're sprouting out from everywhere because I have this picture. I know what the numbers look like and I know what the stories from the people look like. And so I put all of this together and it's just created this beautiful, beautiful picture of how we can address hunger and food insecurity. Almost finished, y'all. Advocacy. So as I shared earlier, this was one of the reasons why I decided to leave state agency, was because I wanted to be able to advocate more. I saw an issue that was happening within the state of Georgia and I could no longer stay silent, but unfortunately as a state agency employee, I had to be very unbiased in my approach to that work and I just couldn't do it. I had this burning passion to make sure that I was addressing the issues that were happening on the ground. That means that I had to get in front of policymakers. I had to get in front of community leaders to say, hey, this is what's going on. I just met with one of our DC council members yesterday and I told him, I said, all right, you told me to stay in contact. I'm going to get on your nerves, just FYI. Some of them hate to see me coming because I will talk about a SNAP supplement every time you see me. And so that's one of the reasons why I had to step away, is because I wanted to make sure that the public was coming together, that we knew that we had the power to come together as a community in support for a particular cause. So we're all here today because we're passionate about food insecurity and we're passionate about hunger. That creates ground for us to address advocacy, to step into our advocacy seats, to determine what is it that we can do, what permanent solutions or initiatives can we adopt. What are we going to do with this information that we gathered? What are we working towards? This is where we lend our knowledge and our voice to create that solution. When we think about advocacy, we're thinking about individuals and organizations, again, that are thinking about this permanent policy solution. We're inviting in diverse perspectives. We all may be here for food systems, but we all are approaching the food systems work in a different way. We all may have different pots of money that we're working with. We all may have targeted populations that we are connecting with, but we can, okay, I'm gonna keep going though, it's on my phone. Okay, I don't know what happened. But we can absolutely put that together to create a viable solution to make sure that we are advocating on the same page. Okay. Slight pause. Okay. And when we're talking about advocacy, it's not always about policy. It's not just about a permanent policy solution. Some of us are in roles where we cannot advocate, like we literally just cannot go to our governor, we can't go to our state legislators, we can't go to our community leaders, because that's just the position that we hold. And so we rely on our community partners to do that advocating on policy for us. But what that advocacy looks like is building a collective power, coming together to develop and build food policy councils, coalition work, putting all of our voices together, putting all of our brains together so that we're working on a change that we want to see within our community. A lot of the work that we do within DC and Maryland is coalition building. Again, we're not the owners of every piece of knowledge across the district and across the state of Maryland, so we rely on our coalition work to touch these various different areas. We have housing advocates that we work with. We have economic justice advocates that we work with. We have tax folks that we work with to make the money make sense. We don't deal with all of that. We can tell you ins and outs of food insecurity, food justice, direct service, what our federal programs look like, but we are not the end all be all of all these other pieces. And when you put us together into this coalition, that's how we make the train move. That's another way that we're able to advocate and push forward our work without an actual policy ask. A lot of times that turns into a policy ask, but that's how we put all of our work together to do that. Yeah. Oh, commercial break. Are we back? Yeah. All right. That NBC commercial, that was your commercial break. Uh-oh. Okay, now this isn't working. I'm still gonna keep rolling. Oh. There we go. Okay, so what's next? And I was starting to get to this with what do we do now? What do we do once we've built the community? Once we've talked about the issues? Once we have gathered the lived experience? Once we've assessed, what is our ability to do? We think about some viable solutions, and as I was saying, a lot of the work that we do is coalition work. We also do a lot of work with our Food Policy Council. So in DC, we are part of the DC Food Policy Council. In Maryland, we are part of the PG Food Equity Council, as well as the Montgomery County Food Council. No real difference between a Food Policy Council and a Food Council. They typically do the same thing. Where the structure is a little bit different, this is for those that may not be familiar with councils. The only difference is DC's Food Policy Council is they are, what is the word I'm looking for? The mayor seats them. So they can't actually advocate. They actually just do the education piece of it. Montgomery County and I believe PG Food Equity Council, they are separate entities, so they can advocate as well as educate. So that's something for you all to think about, putting our collective power together and developing a food policy council, whether countywide, a couple countywide, citywide, but that's a way to create impact. We are also, co-ops is something that I'm a huge fan of, and that builds and shifts power within the community. That allows our community to say, this is what we want to see in a grocery store. These are the items that we want to see. This is the price point that's going to be beneficial for us. And they run, own, and operate that co-op. And there's a lot of models that folks can look at for co-ops. Detroit just opened up, Detroit Food Co-op just opened up a couple months ago. And is a massive co-op in downtown Detroit. Adopting GFPP standards. I'm on the exec committee for the DC GFPP Coalition. And I'm sure, is everyone familiar with the Good Food Purchasing? Okay, so the Good Food Purchasing program is, it started with the Center of Good Food Purchasing, and there are 5 different provisions that are determined as good food purchasing. Local procurement, a viable workforce, a couple other ones. And so we work to make sure that state agencies, our government agencies, are held accountable to these standards. So right now, DC Public Schools are operating underneath this GFPP standard. So they are conducting a baseline data assessment to assess their local purchasing. To make sure that they are following these GFPP principles, to ensure that they are targeting a viable workforce, that they are implementing local food standards, so they're purchasing from more local regional growers across the region. And that is spreading out to other agencies. We're also working with DC Jail Food. So there's a Fresh Starts Act that we have to make sure that we are focusing on carceral nutrition. And that is something that GFPP embodies. That is something that you all can adopt. Is a GFPP-esque coalition, if you would like. Some other ways, looking at our healthy corner stores. We have corner stores, if you have gas stations, making sure that those places, we know that our residents are actually going into these locations, making sure that there's fresh food options in these communities, so that at every point that they have where someone is spending their money, utilizing their benefits, that they have the ability to grab something fresh, that there is an intersection, there's an opportunity to take advantage of fresh food no matter where they're going. Also looking at our WIC stores, making sure that we're removing requirements for our store owners so that they can allocate more space within their stores. So some of these are not, they are policy solutions, but some of them are not. It's just building, it's shifting, and it's sharing knowledge and power. So Simon Sinek is one of my favorite people. Let's see if this will work. Okay. That's not Simon Sinek.
Having an assistant is more common than you think. 64% of executives have an executive assistant.
The Navy SEALs are one of the highest performing organizations on the planet, and a former Navy SEAL was asked, who makes it through BUDS? Who makes it through the selection process to become a SEAL? And he said, I can't tell you who gets through, who makes it, but I can tell you the kind of people who don't make it. He said the star college athletes that never have been really tested to the core of their being, none of them make it through. He said the preening leaders who like to delegate everything, none of them make it through. He said the big tough guys that come in with huge muscles, covered in tattoos, who want to prove to everyone how tough they are, none of them make it through. He said some of the guys that make it through are skinny and scrawny. He said some of the guys who make it through, you will see them shivering out of fear. He said, but every single one of them who makes it through, when they're emotionally exhausted, when they're physically exhausted, some way, somehow, they're able to dig down deep inside themselves to find the energy to help the person next to them. Service. Service. Giving to another, having their back, is what makes the highest performing teams in the world. Not their strength and not their intelligence. It's their willingness to be there for each other.
So if you all don't know who Simon Sinek is, I definitely encourage you to look him up. He is a wonderful teacher when it comes to leadership. But I want to leave you with this one last thing. Kind of as he stated, it's not the most powerful, it's not the smartest person that is going to be the one that's impacting change. I think we are all exhausted this year. I think we're still trying to rebound from the pandemic. Like I tell my staff, I feel like we're putting out fires with lighter fluid. And it seems to continuously get worse, and we just want a break, and I just want a nap. But it's all of us coming together, no matter how exhausted, no matter how tired, no matter how limited the resources, us still coming together to make it work. So for everybody that's in this room, you all have a strategic role that you play in our food system in Maryland. And when it seems like there's not enough money, which there will never be enough money, when it seems like there is not enough resources, there will never be enough resources. But until every single person has had something to eat, until every child is able to eat every single day of the week and not question, where's my next meal gonna come from? How do I pay the rent? How do I pay childcare? How do I pay my mortgage? How do I afford groceries? Until those questions are no longer questions, and we admit that food is a basic human right, and we come to terms with how we're going to build a robust, racially equitable and just food system, we all have the power to continue to make it, to make those decisions, to think through those solutions. It's not easy. Like I said, I'm tired, I want a nap. But we have to keep going. We have to lean on our community. Our community is also leaning on us. But it's the power that we have in community. It's our ability to come together, to partner with one another, to think through new and innovative ideas and ways that we can improve our food system. Thinking through how to develop a food policy council. If we may not have ever dealt with a budget before, but maybe now today is the day for me to take some time to actually dissect the budget and understand, where is my money going? Where are our taxes going? How does that money funnel back to the programs that I'm wanting for us to adopt? And so we all have a role that we play, no matter how large, how small. But when we come together and when we think through those strategies and when we align ourselves with the fact that we are not serving ourselves, that this really is to serve someone else, then we'll know that we've made it. Thank you. You want this back? Okay.
How about another hand for LaMonika Jones? Thank you. Good job. Thank you very much. Just a couple housekeeping notes. We're going to be going to breakout sessions, which are on your schedule. They're on the four corners. I read the bios. I looked up the articles on all of these facilitators. Every single one of them is just going to be a food basket full of goodness. So there's not a single poor decision you can make. The restrooms are on this side. At 11:30 when we go to lunch, if you literally were able to walk straight through this building, there's an exit to the rear of this building. What do you call it? Yeah. It's just you're just gonna jog right slightly, and it's on your right. Okay. Please work on those passports in your breakout sessions and try to meet new people, fill in some insights. We're going to be needing those to share. 11:30, we're going to eat. 12 o'clock, we have a wonderful presentation from Kim Hines on carrot, community and agricultural resilience audit tool. I had to practice that for hours, okay? I reviewed the carrot tool. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's an amazing audit and assessment tool on all that we're talking today, all that we learned from LaMonika, and I'm looking forward to that as well. So enjoy the rest of the morning. We'll see you at lunch. There'll be people around if you have questions. Enjoy your morning. Great job. I know you have a little technical glitch.
Rain, make it, rain, girl, make it.
Thank
Apartment
you.
2B? 2B!